Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So my name's Shane and welcome to my channel if you're new here. And today I'm super stoked because I've been waiting to do this for a really long time and it's flooring the wagon. So here I have a 1992 BMW 525i station wagon or touring, sometimes called an estate. And I'm putting a used set of BC Racing coilovers in it. I got them for pretty cheap, so really excited about that. So let's go check those out.
Look at that, that's nice and shiny.
Alright, so we got the rear coilovers here and the front coilovers. They all have dampening adjustments, and the fronts have camber plates on them, which is really nice. They didn't come with these mounts. I had to order these straight from BC Racing. These are the front mounts and you have to weld them in on these cars. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And while I'm at it, I'm going to replace my tie rod assemblies because mine are a little bit loose. So I've never personally installed a set of coilovers on an E34, so I'm going to be learning with you guys and kind of showing you how it's done. It's a little more complicated than your average coilover install because there's welding involved. I also have to delete the self-leveling suspension in the rear that the Tourings and I believe the M5s come with, which is basically just looping the lines from the feed to the return. So it really shouldn't be that bad. And so I went ahead and I got the car jacked up, I got the wheels off, and I'm just going to start taking the front struts out, and I'll kind of go through the process of how I do that. So first things first, start disconnecting things. I believe this is the pad wear sensor that unplugs. Get all these rubber grommets off of the existing strut. Next, you're going to want to remove your brake caliper. So I believe there's two 18 or 19 mils at the back here for your brake caliper. Get that out of the way. You'll want to disconnect your sway bar links, and then we'll get to the rest. These aren't going to want to come off that easily without prying. Trick I like to do so they're easier to get back on. In here you can see there's a little gap in between the caliper and the rotor. I like to stick a screwdriver in there and just pry it. This compresses the piston caliper and gives you a gap to work with. Like so. Oh, and yeah, it just falls off. Now, I'm going to be zap strapping this into that hole there so it's not stressing the line. Get her zap strapped so this way that the zap straps are supporting the caliper and this line isn't getting stretched out. This can definitely damage the line, and you don't want to lose your brakes. Alright guys, so I've ran into a little bit of a problem. This heat shield's in the way of me getting the nut out for the sway bar link. And you can't get this heat shield off without pulling the hub off, which is really kind of annoying. So I'm just going to go ahead and drill a hole about right there so I can get an extension through there and get my socket on there, and then it'll be problem solved. The hole's not going to affect anything. Alright, also you got to remove this ABS brake sensor. It is a 5mm Allen key. I had to use an Allen key. Allen socket would not fit back there, so that is out too. Alright, so all we got left now is to do these three 19 mils at the bottom of the strut and these three 13 mils at the top, and then I can pull the whole assembly out. Alright guys, so I got my struts out and I got them all apart. I didn't film me taking the spring off because I didn't do it the safe way, which is with spring compressors. I could not find mine, unfortunately, so I did it a different way, and I didn't want to show you guys that way. So they're apart, springs out, and then this is the shock absorber that's inside. You want to take this out before you cut these because this is filled with gas or whatever. This is the retainer that holds the shock absorber in. I use vice grips to get this out. You can use a pipe wrench, or there's a special tool for it. My struts were completely blown. I didn't even realize this, but yeah, they had no life left in them, and they actually felt fine still, so that was kind of weird. But so this should be a huge upgrade for me putting these coilovers in, so I'm super excited. I went ahead and I measured the inside of the seat of these BC mounts, and then I marked where I need to cut. I'm going to cut slightly above this, and then once this is off, I'm going to be putting a hose clamp around, tightening it so it's nice and square, so I can cut, grind down to exactly where I need it to be, so it's nice and flush. Alright, so I got this cut. I used my cutting disc there to cut most of it, and then I used the hacksaw to get even farther, and then I kind of just bent it back and forth until it broke off. Now what I'm gonna do, I put this hose clamp on there so that I get a nice square kind of outline template of what I need to do. And now I'm just gonna put a grinding wheel on my grinder and grind down until this matches the surface of the hose clamp, and then that makes sure that that's all nice and flat. And then I just need to clean up all this this area here where I'm going to be welding, right about here. I'm going to wire wheel all this, clean it up so it's nice and clean, and then I can go ahead and weld the mount on. Alright guys, so I got this all cleaned up and I bared down to the best I could. So my focus is just get a nice strong bead all the way around this, and then that should about do it. And then I'll give it some paint so it doesn't rust or anything. Alright guys, so I just finished doing my welding, my first mount, and it turned out pretty good. I laid a lot of metal down, so it should not ever break. Let's pray it doesn't break. And sorry about that dog, it's been barking for like literally 3 hours straight. We just got the first one welded, and I guess I'm going to throw a little bit of paint on it while it's still warm, so it kind of bakes into it. And then we'll throw the coilover in on the front on this side, and then I'm gonna leave the camera alone for a while and get the other side done, since you already went through this side with me on the front. And then once I'm done both fronts, we're gonna move on to the rears and the SLS delete. Actually, before I install this, I might go ahead and do my tie rod assemblies because I got more room now. So I'm probably gonna do that right before I'm gonna paint that, do my tie rods, or the one side at least, and then I'll put the new coilover in that side, and we'll see how it looks. Alright guys, making a lot of progress here. So I got the coilover all in the new mount that's welded into my front knuckle. I went ahead and put my tie rod assembly in. It's pretty straightforward. There's only 2 nuts to take off. They're 17 mils. The hardest part is getting the stub out of the steering linkage and the little steering knuckle. I usually just I hammer a wrench in between the joint and the steering knuckle, give it some pressure, and then I hit the end of the steering knuckle to shock it, and it usually pops out. It worked for me. And then you just measure your old ones to your new ones, put them in, and it should be close enough. I'm gonna see how the car feels, but I probably will get the car realigned after all this work, because it's probably gonna be out a bit, but it definitely should feel a lot better. So we'll check out my weld job and the strut when it's all put together as one, as a coilover, and yeah, we'll put it in. And like always, I won't bore you with putting this strut back in, because it is just the reverse of how you took it out. So I'm going to go ahead and slam this back in. I'm going to put the camera down for a while. I'm going to go do the other side solo, put some music in, get it done quick, and then I'll move on to the rear. Alright guys, so look at that. It's all installed. I got my new tie rod assembly in this side. Much tighter than the old one was, really sloppy. So everything's done up. Take your time, make sure everything's tight, make sure you got all these things put back in their little spots. You know, put your brake caliper on nice and tight. I like to use anti-seize on all the bolts, just so next time if I have to do the brakes or anything else, they all come apart pretty easily. One side completely done. It was quite a bit of work to do on this car because you have to take the whole strut out. You have to disassemble the whole thing, cut and weld it all. So definitely a lot of work on this car to get coilovers, but it's looking really good. It looks way cleaner in here and just a lot smaller and lighter. So I'm really excited to see how this performs. So I gotta go get the other side done and I'll get back to you. All right, everybody, so wow, my face is really dirty. All right, guys, so I got the fronts done, so I'm super stoked about that. That is definitely the hardest part, is just getting all the welding done and all the bits and pieces you gotta do for the front end. I got new tie rod assemblies and the front coilovers in, so that's all done. I'll show you this side. It's the exact same as the other side. Alright, so I'm going to put my front wheels on. I'm going to lower the car and then kind of give you a look at, I don't really know how low these are going to be. I just kind of put them at a random height. I kind of put them where the guy that sold them to me had them, and I think he had them in a touring. But anyways, I'm going to put the wheels on, see how it looks, and then I will move on to the rears. They're a lot easier. They're just like 3 bolts on top, 1 bolt on the bottom, and then I got to do the SLS delete, which is another story. So we'll get into that. Guys, I actually just got back from a little drive after putting the front ones in, and it definitely feels like a way different car in a way. Feels stiffer. I haven't really played with the adjustments for the dampening yet, but it definitely feels a lot better, especially with those tie rod assemblies. It just feels way more solid, and I just really like how it feels. So got back and I started, since this is touring, it's not that easy to get to the rear strut mounts. You got to take like pretty much the whole rear interior out to get to the rear strut mounts. So I did that. I didn't film it because I had no idea what I was doing. So now I can kind of walk you through how I did that. Alright, so they're hiding at the back here. You got to take these, there's panels that come off. There's a Phillips there after you take the hatch door down. And then there's a couple of those push button pins. I think there's 2 of them. There's one down here. There's a couple of Phillips right there. A couple Phillips right there. 1, 2, 3 Phillips. 4 Phillips. You know, it's pretty easy. You just gotta start stripping the interior bits off the sides here, and then you can get to them. So this is where I'm at now. So I'm going to start jacking the car up in the rear and assessing the SLS, because that's going to be the trickiest part about the rear coilovers. Hopefully it goes pretty well. I'm hoping just to loop the lines from the feed line to the return instead of it going through the actuators and all that in the back. I'm just gonna loop it, so let's see how that works out. Alright guys, I'm back. It is the next day and I got the parts I need. I got 2 brake line fittings and a coupler to loop the lines for the SLS. So I found out which lines I need. I'll show you the lines, and then I'm basically just gonna be cutting them, putting brake line fittings on each one, and then joining them together so that the feed goes out and then straight back into the return, and it's just gonna cycle like that. Under the car here, I traced them back from the actuators, the ball actuators that these things have, and it's gonna be this line and this line. There's a line in between them, that's the brake line for the rear. So the 2 outside lines are the SLS lines. So I'm just gonna be chopping these and looping them back together, and that'll be my delete. After I do that loop, then I can start ripping out the rear struts and taking all the SLS accumulator balls and the valve out, and that's all just going to be gone. Here's an update of my looped lines there. So I did this fitting first. This is actually the feed line. As soon as you cut it, it's just going to start pouring fluid out of it. Partially why I did not videotape it, because I had to rush so I wouldn't lose as much fluid. So yeah, just did that. Used a brake line bending tool to get this 180 turn, and then just looped it back into the return line. So there's that. There's the 2 cut lines. So everything from here back, I'm just gonna get rid of. And the reason I did it way back near the rear wheel is just because it's a lot easier to get back here and do the brake lines. It's never really fun doing brake lines under the car, so might as well do it in the easiest spot possible, because as soon as it goes over there, it goes in and it just wouldn't be fun up there. But if you don't know how to do double flare brake lines, I do have a video on that if you go back and look through my playlist. So now that that is over and done with, probably the messiest part about this whole thing, because as soon as you cut that line, it's just gonna start dripping fluid out of it constantly. So I just made sure I quickly did the flares, quickly got them back together so I would lose the least amount of fluid possible, because it's some special fluid that is really expensive. It's like 25 bucks a liter. So if I can get 1 bottle of that and not 2, then saving. Well, don't make the mistake I just made a freaking huge mess. I just cut the line for the actuator ball, and I didn't even think about it, but it had a whole bunch of hydraulic fluid under pressure in it, and it just sprayed it everywhere. Like you probably can't see, but the whole inside of my wheel well is covered. My brakes are covered in power steering fluid. I had to put a bunch of kitty litter down. It sprayed all over this stuff, and it just sprayed everywhere. So I gotta clean this up, and then I'll hopefully get this finished. Alright guys, so I just finished installing the rear coilovers and deleting the SLS. Rear coilovers, super easy to install. There's 1 22 mil bolt at the bottom of them, and then 3 13 mils at the top. Super easy. The hardest part I had to deal with, because I have a touring, was the self-leveling suspension. Getting all that out was kind of a pain in the ass, I'm not gonna lie. I made that huge mess there, and then there's just a whole bunch of brake line stuff and valve to get out. So I'll show you all the crap I pulled out. It's actually quite a bit of weight I'm saving putting these coilovers in, and power steering fluid and stuff like that. So let's check out all the stuff I pulled out. I'll show you the rear coilovers installed, and then we'll lower the car, and I'll probably adjust it to a good height all around until I get some wheels that I can kind of fit to the car. So after I lower the car with the wheels on it, I'm gonna go probably take it for a drive. I'm gonna leave the rear interior stuff out so that I can dial in the dampening of where I feel like it's most comfortable to drive with. And then I'll put that all back in the next couple days and make the car look complete again. I kind of left it where I got the coilovers at, the height that they were at, and it's all pretty even around. So like I said, when I get the wheels that I want to get fitted to those wheels. So for now I'm just going to roll around at this height. It's pretty low, but it's not too low. So I'm going to pull out of the garage and go put it on the street and see how it looks on the street. And then I'll probably take it around for a drive and play with the dampening, adjust it and stuff like that. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you liked it, please drop a like down below, and please leave comments, feedback, any questions. I like engaging with you guys. So thanks again for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Much appreciated. I love all my subs. So we'll catch you guys later.